Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to draw a human eye. So there's a couple different pieces of paper that I gave to you. This is the drawing paper. It's a little heavier and you can kind of see that this is a little thinner paper so you can see through it. You can use either one. This one was the one that you folded. This one was the one that's just a copy piece of paper. So I'm just going to use it on the copy paper. And we're going to do some practices. So when you first start drawing your eye, look up human eye with eyebrow or just human eye, and you're going to find a whole different range of eyeballs to draw. So make sure you're drawing one and it has an eyebrow so that you can see it. Okay, first thing I'd like to start with is the actual eyeball. So think about an eyeball. Okay, it's round. So I'm going to start by lightly penciling in a circle. Okay, so this one's going to be kind of big on my paper. Yours can be a little smaller. Then I'm going to go and do the iris. Which is about half of the diameter. And then I will do the pupil. And pupil can be different. You know, pupil can be dilated or pupil can be very small. So when I do the pupil, I am not going to draw the entire thing, but think again, it's round. You have a different shaped pupil in there, you're going to it'll end up looking like some animal eye or some other kind of thing. Okay, so very light with your pencil. Make sure that you have light pencil lines. Okay, so now that I have my eyeball drawn, I'm going to look at the picture that I have on my eyeball. And if you notice, the lid usually will go right across the iris. And it depends how the person's looking. So this one that I see here, I see that my lid is going right across the top of the iris. You usually do not see the whole iris. You won't see where this is like contained, kind of like up here is your lid and down here, unless the person is really surprised. So we're going to take the bottom lid, and if you see on this side, this is going to be the corner of my eye. There's that little piece that's the corner of your eye. So I'm going to kind of make that little corner piece over here and then really follow. This really defines what a person's eye actually looks like, is when you do this part down here. Some people's eyes tend to come up a little bit, as you might see right there, and come down. Some are very straight across. This one I'm seeing the bottom of the iris completely, and then I'm kind of swooping up. Okay, and if you noticed, I stopped at the end of the eyeball. You don't want to have a hole. It would be like a gap between your eye and your skull, basically. So there's my shape that I'm starting with. So I draw super light because I can use my eraser and kind of tap in other things like shadows around the eyes. Okay. The lid on the bottom, you want this to be very, very thin. This line right here, that bottom line, you want that to be very thin. So make sure you have a good sharp pencil when you do this. Very thin. And sometimes you might want to like skip. It doesn't have to be this super solid line, so you might want to skip over a little bit of area. This area down here, your lid, you actually see the thickness of your lid. So I'm going to make a line underneath it and carry that right back up. Okay. and that's going to be the thickness of my lid. Okay, the top one, you're really not going to see that. You might see it a little bit over on the edge here, which I do in this eye, but usually not on top. Usually not in this area over here. Okay. Now what I'm looking at is the crease in the eye. So that's going to fall a little back more from your eyeball. So think of this as being round and where it's going to crease and where it's going to go in. So I'm going to follow, I'm looking at my photo, and I'm following like how this eye is shaped. And this person's, the skin above it kind of falls down a little bit. So right here there's the peak, and then it falls down like this. And there's a curve that kind of comes out like that. Okay. So make sure you're following your picture. All right. Around the outside of actually where your eye opens, you're going to also see some kind of shadowing. So this is the part where you're going to need your blending stump. So I'm going to come in a little bit with my pencil, and I'm going to put kind of like these shading marks. Okay, and think about like where does the eyeball start to go in? And on this person it's about right here. And I'm going to carry that up. And I see some more little lines right in here. Okay. Now, all of this area is quite dark. I'm seeing like a depression basically in the eye. So I'm going to shade that in a little bit, and if you notice I'm not going very dark with my pencil. So I'm sort of shading in a little bit, and then I want to see where does my eyebrow start. And if you kind of look, if you look at your photo and you're going like straight up from the corner of your eye to where your eyebrow starts, that might be where it starts. This one seems like it's over slightly, so if I came straight up and I went over slightly, I'm going to start somewhere around here. And I'm seeing eyebrow. And I'm sort of just chipping in. See, notice how I'm just kind of chipping in that eyebrow. And I'm not putting these dramatic lines. Not yet anyway. We're going to kind of just shade in where the eyebrow is. And I'm following along. So this one kind of goes back like that. And I think I'm a little low right there. I'm going to erase some of that. Okay, and I'm looking at the corner of the eye over here and how, like, I'm looking at the picture and seeing where the eyebrow ends. So it's somewhere right around there. It's actually like a diagonal. So as you get out further, you're going to have your eyebrow go thinner. If you're doing a masculine eyebrow, that's going to be probably a little thicker. It depends. Some eyebrows are very light and hardly there, especially if you have a person that's blonde. And then if you have an older person, sometimes you might have a little bit more, especially if it's a male. Okay, so I'm just kind of shading that in. If you kind of see, I'm chipping, chip. That's what I mean by that. Okay, just so I know where that eyebrow is. So right now it's kind of the same value going across. We're going to make some of these different values. Okay, so now I have some basic shapes in there, and I want to add a little bit of dark where I am seeing really dark areas of the eye. So right around here, I'm seeing a dark value. So I'm pushing on my pencil, and I want there to be this line that goes kind of from a thick dark to a thin, because it kind of tapers out. And this area in here is a little shaded. So I'm going to add a very, very light value with my pencil. Just a very light value. And I want to do this so soft. Okay. And I'm going to look for my darks again. So around the outer edge of your iris usually has a little darkness. It's usually a little darker there. So there's what we call a spiral in our eye. And I don't like to go around the whole thing with the same value of a dark line. So what I do is I'll start up here, because think of your eye being rounded like this. Okay, and your lid is covering, your eyelashes are actually up here, and they're actually shading some of your eye up here. So all of this area up here is going to be a little shaded. This is going to be the area that pops out the most right in the center, and that's going to have some of the lighter value on it. So here I'm going to add some of my dark. Okay, and then again the lighter value as it comes in, especially towards the center. And the bottom, I'm just going to give a little bit there. Okay. Now my pupil. Now, the really cool part that's going to make this more realistic for you is when you do your highlights within the eye. So look at your photo and see. Now here's a little light area here. We want to have a little bit of shading there. All of this is going to be shaded a little bit. So make sure you have your blending stump handy, because this is going to come out in a minute. All right. I want to push right in here. This is actually a dark area. That's where the lid's kind of folding over. Okay, a little bit right here. Okay, so very light touch with your pencil when you're doing this shading. And this is deep right in here. Okay, very light pencil right in here. So in order for you to use your blending stump, you have to have some good dark pencil marks down. Well, it's not all dark pencil marks. You just definitely have to have some shading down. Okay. So highlights in the eye. This one. There's so many neat things that you can do that really look at what you're saying. So this one almost looks like the person has a window or something like that's kind of shining in their eye. There's some sort of value in there. Keep these little flecks and go ahead and really press on some of your pupil. So think to yourself that some of it still is going to have a little lighter value on it. It'll give you that realistic eyeball that you want. So some of it is going to be very dark, and some of it is going to have kind of like a grayish tone to your pencil. A light gray, I mean. Okay, spiral in your eye. So start from the center, start spiraling out. So some of these are going to be a little longer, some of them are going to be a little shorter, kind of like that uncut grass thing. And then I kind of spiral from this way. And it really depends on what the eye looks like of the person. Some people don't have much of a spiral at all, but other eyes you can really see. And remember that also has some highlight in it. So some areas are a little darker, and some are going to have some nice highlight in there. Now, I know you're probably excited to get those eyelashes on there, but we're going to do a little bit of shading first. So you can get your blending stump, and you're going to start to use your blending stump right in that dark area and just kind of blend right along the line. So you're kind of taking the edge of your dark and blending it down slightly. So there will be some highlights in here, but most of it will have a value. So I'm going to kind of just leave a little area right up there that kind of has some highlights on it. So this whole thing gets a little value on it. That's why you want these shaded first, because this is all a little darker. All of this in here was darker. All this area in here. And I'm going to go right over my eyebrow. You have to always go back and forth with your pencil. So you use your eraser to draw with, you use your pencil to draw with, you actually use this to draw with. You can see that this kind of looks like a pencil now. So if you kind of use it, if you use it somewhere else on your paper, you're going to notice it writes. So all this area in here is a nice highlight. So I'm going to just bring up a little from here and just gradually blend it off. So all of that in there. Now, what you don't want to happen when you use this, a lot of people love the blending stump and they kind of get carried away with it. You don't want it to look like a blob of just the same value. So you got to be very careful with doing that. And if you're thinking to yourself, this is looking really good, everything's kind of working out good, go back still and use your pencil, just your pencil, without the blending stump, and get some of your crisp lines in there, and you're going to see a huge difference. Okay, now even in our eyeball, so I'm going to go and again, it might seem like it's a little counterproductive because you just put those lines in there and now you're going to smudge them in a little bit. But that's going to give you, and now I'm blending a little bit of that shadow onto the eyeball. Think of the whitest part of your eyeball would really be the highlight rather than the white of your eyeball. So even in this area where you see the white, if you put in a nice little shade of value in there, you're going to have a more realistic eyeball than you would if you didn't have that in there. Okay. There we go. All right, now, so this is quite blurry. As you can see, it's quite blurry right now. So if I go back in with my pencil, I'm going to sharpen some things up. So those definite lines, go back in and really look and see where they are. Okay, we're getting there. We still have not done our eyelashes though, and that really is a fun part, so we're getting there though. I'm going to deepen this area a little bit. Remember, you want that graded value. Graded values, you slowly get from dark to light or light to dark. Okay, now I'm seeing a little bit of where I have my eyeball drawn in there, so I'm going to use my pencil, or my eraser, I'm sorry, and I'm going to go back and just erase a little bit. Be careful when you're kind of brushing off your eraser marks. It's nice to use a brush, but whatever you have. So now I'm going to go back into my eyebrows, and I'm going to really pick out some of those pieces of hair, and I can see the direction of how they're going. Some areas might be a little lighter, so you might have to use your eraser and go in and actually use a sharp eraser. If you have like a nice cap eraser that looks kind of sharp, that's a good one to draw with because you'll have that tip there. And hair is, this is how you're going to get it, is go back with your eraser. And this is essential, like when you do a lot of hair, if you're doing the fur on a dog or something that has someone that has long hair, something that has long hair, this is how you're going to do it with your blending stump, your eraser, and your pencil. And you just kind of finesse back and forth. And the thing is, when you do this, take a step back and look at it. And then you'll notice if things are all blending together or if some things actually do pop out. Okay. I'm going to take my eraser and I'm just going to make sure that this is a nice highlight right there, which looks like a pretty good highlight. Okay. Putting a little back in here. I'm going to define this little corner a little bit more. Sometimes you see a little shine right in the corner. This one I do, so I want to make sure that I kind of erase out a little spot in the corner. So I've got a real dark spot and then just erase out a little spot. Okay, and leave that highlight. So sometimes what artists like to do is go back with white paint or some kind of white, and they kind of fleck in where some highlights would be, and it really is very, very nice. All right, let's go on to do some lashes on this. Now, lashes, try not to get carried away with lashes because it can be very easy to be like, oh, I want these long, beautiful eyelashes, and really you want to be careful the direction of how they go. Sometimes you need to sort of suggest that the eyelashes are there by only doing a couple. So don't do too many or else your eye is just going to be, you know, it'll take over. It definitely takes over. Okay, I'm seeing this little shadow right on the corner that I want to get. And this is actually pretty dark in here, so I just keep using my sharp pencil right in the corner and seeing a little bit of the thickness of the eyelid. Remember in here, this thickness of the eyelid, if you can get your really nice sharp eraser, make sure that you have a little highlight in there. And it's usually like right in the center. You're gonna have this beautiful highlight, and also like right up on the edge here of your eye. So think of, again, it's the rounded part. It's the part that actually pops out. Okay. Now, my eyelashes, since the corner of my eye is over here, I am going to do my eyelashes coming out this way. Okay, so when you do eyelashes, sometimes they actually come right down over the eye a little bit. So I don't start doing my eyelashes up here. I start more where the iris is. So I'm just going to kind of start with some kind of, they're sort of curling up. So when I'm doing an eyelash, this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of curling it. Let me give you a little highlight. Okay, so eyelashes are more, sorry. Okay, this type of thing. Okay, and there's some smaller ones, and they might kind of come over. So that's more of like a little suggestion. If you think of this as where the eyelid is, okay, you want to make sure your eyelashes are going out. So you don't want to do this. If this is my eye, let me see where we are, about right here. So if this is my eye, okay, one thing you don't want to do is do something like this. Okay, and especially don't do this. This is my corner. Okay, we're not going to do eyelashes in this area right here. We're not going to do eyelashes in that area. No, no, no. Okay? Okay, so remember, no eyelashes here. We're going to start from the corner, and we're going to kind of just start right, we're going to start from the corner of our iris, basically. And just a little line that kind of comes up ever so slightly. Now I made mine a little dark, and I'm going to have to go in. I see it right now. Okay? It's just a little wisp. Okay, where you're going to see the most is where your eye peaks. So think of the center of your eye, the roundest part, okay? That's where you're going to see the most. So you're going to kind of do a couple. There can be a couple small ones in like that. And some eyes you're barely going to see any eyelashes at all. Okay, and you're taking it from the line that you put the lid on. Now as this comes around, here's my lid, this line here. Okay, so we want to make sure, this person does have long eyelashes, that when I draw eyes I like to do that. So it's like you can if you want to, you don't have to. Now there's some of them like I go back in. So this person, I've got some mascara on this person. You know me, I like mascara. So right on the edge, I'm kind of making, right on the edge of my eyelid, I'm making that a little darker where I'm putting the first, like kind of swoop where my eyelash is. Okay? So something like that. When you do the bottom lashes, they're even less. And again, don't start over here, start here, and they're really going to go in this direction. You're definitely going out this way. Don't put them straight down. You're going to have a problem with them looking like these legs that are going to just carry your eyeball away. And remember, this is your inner lid. Your eyelashes are growing from the bottom line that you put there. Okay, and just a few, suggest that they're there. Not too many. The corner can have, a little more. Okay. And if you feel like you overdid it, you just go back in and use your nice eraser, your nice wedge eraser. And erase a little bit. Okay? All right. So really, I just want you to do something fairly simple like this. Get used to using the blending stump and your pencil. And think about like how you would do hair, which is the eyebrows. Think about how you get roundness from your eye. I do have to put a little bit of shadow there. Keep your highlights in there. Those highlight spots are very important. And you will be good.
Sailing the solar wind, we'll drift away. Twilight and heaven's end, just slip away. Now wait too long, my friend, the day is gone. The dreamer fades away. Now wait too long. Breaks my mind of the darkness inside. I got to raise my head when the morning breaks my and it's breathless outside.
Okay, thanks for watching.